$20,000 on your first deal.
I must admit, it was some days. This is not real. This can't be real. Like no way. You can find a lead off of this.
And that's the phase where a lot of people just quit and give up, and they're like, okay, this wasn't as easy as they said it was on TikTok.
My first deal was 20,000. So when it actually happened, it was like just kind of in awe.
I'm excited to be here with you and get to learn a little bit about your story, your journey, how you've gotten into real estate. It's pretty fun to see and get to meet somebody who takes my content, takes it to heart, applies it, doesn't just consume it, but applies it and sees results. So Will, tell us a little bit about you, your background, where you're from, and how you got started.
From Nashville, Tennessee. Was a typical athlete. I played high school basketball, college basketball, and I played overseas for a little bit. And I was on TikTok one day and I heard about wholesaling. Wasn't very detailed. Obviously, I thought it was a scam when I heard about 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 for a house or whatever the case may be. And I kind of detached from that for a while, and I came back to it maybe, I want to say early 2022. And I ran across this guy called Flipman. I ran across your videos. It was way more detailed and better explained. So at that point, I kind of took a deep dive into it. And as that went on, I met this other guy who was doing pre-foreclosures, but it had me driving and knocking on doors. And most driving of my life. And it's like I got tired of that kind of pretty much, and I went back into deep diving into your videos, and I finally took action. So that's how I started.
That's great. Very cool. And you started there in Nashville?
Yes, sir.
And how long ago was this?
I want to say 2023, July, the summer of 2023, when I first took action.
Yeah. So almost a year ago from this right now, from this recording. So it's been a year. Well, that's great. So you're fairly new. And what was it that drove you to take action? Like you learn things and you watch somebody do it. There's this thought in your mind that everybody has, which is like, is this for real? Does this actually work? Is it as easy as everybody says it is? And instantly, most people, they're met with resistance. Usually you have a little bit of rejection. You make mistakes. Maybe you have contracts that fall out. Not everybody. Some people have success right out of the gate. But for the most part, you go through this grind. And that's the phase where a lot of people just quit and give up. And they're like, okay, this wasn't as easy as they said it was on TikTok. This is actually work. How did you manage that phase? What was that like for you? How long did it take you to pick up the phone from when you started learning about it? How long did it take you to pick up the phone, start talking to people? And then from there, how long did it take to get your first deal?
So when I started binge watching your videos again, I want to say it took me roughly about 4 weeks, about a month, about 30 days.
So that was about a 4-week period for you to do that, to start talking to people, to getting a contract.
Right.
Okay.
And
was that on market, off market?
Off market. So I was dabbling in the double dip method, and then I forgot what I was watching, and Propwire came up, and that's been the biggest blessing ever for me, because I was using the prop string. It just wasn't working for me. Propwire came, and that just, as far as getting data, I still wouldn't have the funds to necessarily pay for the skip trace, but I would use free people search. But to be able to get all those leads or names to go look at those other free sites to find the numbers was priceless. Wow.
So what was it about it? Was it just that it was free, or were there other things that you found, helpful? Tell me about the experience. Is it, because a lot of people tell me it's very intuitive. The user interface is really good. A lot of people like that. What did you find that you liked the most about it?
At first, it wasn't a lot of trap door as far as backdoor fees and all that, so I can get to the data and then be able to access the data readily. And it was the user face is friendly compared to, not to downgrade or talk bad about other websites. It was easy to pull all that data and then go to other sites and plug it in and call different people without having to pay, X amount fee per 10-day trials and all that stuff. So it was definitely beneficial to me progressing and getting that proof of concept.
And free was a big deal, especially, in the beginning, free's a big deal. Like freeze can make the difference between, doing something, not doing something. You even took the data and, there's a cost to skip tracing. You even said, well, I'm going to go try to find these people using some other free resources. So like you really were resourceful here to get going, to get going. And
it was.
so tell us about that. Do you remember what lists did you search on that to get that first deal? Do you remember?
Yes, I was, I forgot which podcast. Actually, I talked to him often now. Eric Klein's absentee owner data.
Absentee absentee owner is what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're searching absentee owner, which is a big list. I mean, that's not a small list. You can filter it even more in Propwire. Did you do some more filters or was it just a big list?
Yes, I was watching another one of your videos again, and you were showing how to filter it down. So I got my list niched down to about 1,000 people. Because the first one was like 60,000, so I got to about 1,000.
Yeah, I was wondering that. Yeah, so you were list stacking, probably adding more motivation filters to it.
Yes.
And that's a really powerful strategy because you could take that absentee owner list of, like you said, 60,000 and keep stacking it with more motivation. And then all of a sudden now that list is much smaller, but it's a highly concentrated, very high intent list now. Right. And, if that's all you have because you have limited time resources, like that's a really powerful way to get in front of some very high motivation leads.
That's good on the front end, but once you get on that phone, it's a different battle.
Yeah, that's so true. So were you nervous when you first started talking to those people? What was that like?
Since I was door knocking and, being an athlete, I'm not nervous to talk to people, but I think for anybody, getting told no that many times can hurt anybody's confidence, no matter what field you're in. That's not normal rejection at that level of being told no and different things over and over and over again. So
especially since it's not just no, it's no with, obscenities and, people mad and, that can wear on someone. Like that's hard to take. That's brutal. It takes some thick skin to see through that and push through that. Most people can't handle it very well. In time, it still hurts. Like for me, I've been doing it for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And, it still hurts. Like you get off there and you feel kind of down a little bit, but the winners just let it roll. Like it just the sting wears off quickly. You're back on the phone. You're back into that, like you're an athlete. So that competitive nature kicks in and, right. And, you're back at it and you're just roll with it and it's okay. Like you work through it.
I must admit, it was some days like, man, maybe this is not real. This can't be real. Like no way, you can find a lead off of this, but it's real.
How'd you work through that? What was going through your mind when you were hitting those walls?
I would just, basically you already kind of gave me the right mindset going into it from real videos and some other people I watched, knowing that it wouldn't be no easy get rich quick scheme. So my mindset was correct going into it, but I do feel if you go into it with the wrong mindset, it can affect you a lot more. So since my mindset wasn't expecting to get a deal in a day, 2 weeks, I was kind of like, well, today sucked. I'm trying to get them all. So that was my mindset.
So you're saying you didn't go in there thinking it was going to be easy. You knew that it was going to be work. And once you accepted that it was going to be work, then it was just like another day in the trenches, not a big deal. Like you normalized it by doing it. Yeah, I tell people all the time, like, normalize this. It's okay. You're going to get a lot of no's. That's part of how it works. Don't sweat it. Keep going. And then that allows you to kind of like just step up and not have unrealistic expectations. At the same time, that's good to do, but at the same time, you also want to have a belief system that every call could be the deal of a lifetime. And so like, I still like to approach the phone feeling like from abundance, like, hey, this could be the one that is the home run deal. And then when it's not, it's like, well, I'm that much closer, right? This one could be the home run deal. And that allows you to still be realistic, but also bring your A game and have high energy on every call.
I agree. Mindset is everything. And once you get into the industry, you hear about the unicorn stories of my first phone call, my first week, but I wouldn't tell anybody to go into it believing that, because I don't think that's the norm. That's not normal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the exception, not the rule. So you worked through that and then, but even still, like, if you were on the phones for 4 weeks before you got your first deal, that's a pretty quick turnaround time, like that. I'm imagining you were consistent, you stayed at it, you put in the calls, you put in the work, and then it paid off. Like
Right.
I'm imagining you earned every bit of that success for that first deal, like you did it.
And like you say, when you get your first deal, the proof of concept, you just sit there. My first deal was 20,000. So when it actually happened, it was like just kind of in awe, if that's the
Yeah.
right word to put for it. And then after that, you want to repeat the process and keep going.
Yeah, your first deal was 20,000. Imagine that. Like, what was that like? Try to explain to somebody listening right now who, if someone's done this before and they're sitting there with a grin on their face, nodding, going, "Yeah, I remember that moment." And I certainly do. For me, it's like it happened yesterday because it was so impactful. It made such a difference. It hit me in the core so strongly because I knew at that moment that the rest of my life was about to change. And so it's a moment in time that I will never forget. And to this day, 20 years later, it still feels that way to me. So for you, I'm just telling you right now, like, you will always reflect on that deal, that first deal.
Right.
And it will be a pivotal moment. You may not think so now, but in time, you'll see just how pivotal that moment was in time to transform the rest of your life.
And like you say, you never forget your first deal. And to this day, I closed multiple deals now, but that's the one special deal. And I remember how it played out till this day,
Yeah.
And I used, I forgot who you was talking to one day. I would go to Zillow and do a quick comp, just 50% Zillow price, just to know whatever the case may be. So when I called the guy, he was like, "Hello, this is Will. I'm calling about 123 Main Street. Are you want to sell?" He said, "Yes." I said, "What's price?" And he said, 40,000. I was like, because the number on my paper already was 50, so he was 10,000 below. And when it hit me, I almost messed up what I was saying. I was just sitting there like, this is it, and that actually, it planned out, and I got the 20K at the end of the deal. Now I still was missing a rookie. I had no pictures, didn't have rent rolls and everything, but found a good buyer, and he still buys from me to this day. So it went all.
So on that deal, was that a by owner, or you found it on Zillow, or no, you didn't find it on Zillow. You found that through Propwire doing and with a concentrated absentee owner list.
Yes.
And then you call him. So guys, follow what he's doing here. So he really simplified this. So one thing I'll teach sometimes is like, hey, if you want to do a super fast, like 5-second valuation on a property, take whatever the Zillow number is and cut it in half. Call it 50%, 40%, and that's your offer price, right? That's your like low anchor number. And just to put it out there, see what they do. So you did that. That number was 50,000 in your mind. You're like, okay, 50,000, that's my half a Zillow value. Yeah. You ask him what price he wants. He says 40,000. You're like, oh my gosh, the number he gave me was below my low rock bottom number. And, I call that the stars aligning. You just happen to be at the right place, the right time, seller's highly motivated, and you get this phenomenal deal. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't happen every single day, but if you're in the game, it starts to happen more and more often. And so you just were in the right place at the right time, and did you accept that 40,000 when he said that number? Did you say, okay, let's do it?
Well, after I paused and off about 7 seconds, I said, I can do that. I said, I can do that. No problem. And I used another technique, did the reverse engineering. So I already had two buyers, and I knew what they buy box was. So I didn't have to go search for a buyer. I already knew exactly what he wanted. It was within his buy box, and it was quick to get it to him. And he wanted it. Don't show anybody else. I want this deal. And it was,
And once you got the contract, how'd you find your buyer? Where was the buyer at?
So I went to Facebook and went to new investment groups. And I would go through, instead of paying, I forgot that website, I would filter them myself. I would send a message, hey, this is Will. Having properties come up in your area. What's your buy box? Some would respond, some I would find out were liars, and I just would filter through them and that's how I found my first two buyers.
Wow, that's so cool. And so they wanted this deal, and so then you did just a traditional assignment. Did they give you the number, or did you tell them, hey, I want 60, or how'd you get to the cash buyer number?
So I sent out at 60 to him.
Yeah.
And when he seen it, he sent his GC over there. Now, I know you can get boots on the ground, but usually when you have good buyers, they already have people in place to go see properties. It's kind of saving time. So in a way, he went to go see it. And he was like, it was turnkey ready. So he was like, yeah, I'll take it. And after I got the rent roll and pictures, and the seller was an older guy, so it took a while to get him to sign the DocuSign and all that other stuff. But once we got that figured out, it was, I think we closed in a week and a half.
Wow. So it was occupied. There was a tenant in it. You had to figure out the rent situation there for your buyer, but the buyer wanted it and he kept the tenant in the home. He wanted the tenant too. Yeah.
Yep.
So this was someone that would just add in this property to their portfolio.
Bingo.
Yep. Yeah. And so at 60,000, this is probably a lower income area, right? Buying it for 60,000. They're looking to just build their portfolio, pick up another rental, and worked out great that you had that deal. They were ready to pay cash and close a week and a half later, just like that.
Just like that.
Any hiccups, or did it literally go that smooth?
It was some hiccups, only because just that the seller was older. So getting him to get the rent roll, look through his files, find the paperwork, get this deed and all that stuff. But to me, now knowing how other things can go wrong, that was a small hiccup compared to what I've been experiencing here in this last month. So,
no kidding, right? Yeah, don't you wish they all went that smooth?
No, deed issues, title issues.
So that's really phenomenal. $20,000 on your first deal. Incredible. Will, so proud of you. You're a flipping genius. Guys, leave a comment and say, Will, you're a flipping genius. What did it look like? What's it look like for you now since then? How have you been doing the business now? Are you full-time? Are you now in a scale phase? Where are you at today?
So I've been doing it part-time up till, I want to say March, because I do some work in the school system. But I told myself this summer, I'm on scale. That's my next venture. So as always, I refer back to your video. You did a series with Rob Winsley. So the first thing I did with that profit, I didn't do nothing stupid with it, go buy anything miscellaneous. I went ahead, hired 2 VA callers. So now all the leads I talk to now, thank God, are warm leads. I don't get cursed out no more. Nobody tells me, why you calling me. So all my leads are warm. And I want to say starting next week, I'm going to scale up. So I've been my KPI, usually 38 leads, 2-3 contracts. I'm finna start doing at least 80 to 100 leads, which should get me probably, hopefully, 3 to 4 contracts, and maybe 1 or 2 will fall out. Hopefully, that's what I'm thinking.
So you're using, you said you hired 2 VAs.
I had one. I'm hiring another one next week.
And they're cold calling, and then they're sending those warm leads to you to close.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you're not doing those initial calls. You're utilizing, which is huge because now you can spend your time doing more effective stuff, right? Like closing.
Yes. Yes.
And are you going on appointment, or are you closing on the phone? How are you doing that?
So I'm in 4 markets. The ones in Nashville, I go on appointments, obviously, because I'm within the city. But my other markets, I'm not going on appointments.
Okay. Gotcha. So you close those on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And still using Propwire for data?
I'm going to die with Propwire. I'm not going anywhere.
That's awesome. Love
I signed up for the Diamond membership. So
okay. Yeah.
So I need to double my leads now. So I got to figure out, I need 20,000 to 10,000. So I got to work on that.
Yeah. The Diamond's awesome because you're taking massive advantage of the skip tracing then.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're getting the skip tracing. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. If you guys don't know, we're doing some really special promos. There's a gold and a diamond's even. How much is the diamond? You get 10,000. Is that what that one is? I forget.
10,000. Yes.
Yeah. So you get 10,000 skip traces for how much is it a month?
I want to say 300, 297, 300, something like that.
Something like that. So you're literally getting like skip tracing for pennies.
Yeah.
Where the going rate is like, 12 cents or whatever. So it's a really cool thing. I mean, Will, we created that for you. We created that for people that are actively on the system because, we don't make any money. We lose money because we're basically letting you skip trace for cost. We might even lose some money doing it, but I don't care because I want to get more active users on the system. And it's really cool to see like someone like you doing it and using it. And it's smart, right? I mean, like that's money you're saving that you're putting in your pocket to do the business.
Right. And listen, when you say you want to run a skinny business, keep your overhead low, that helps me keep my overhead low. Because if I wasn't, I mean, that would be paying easily between $1,100, $1,500. So yes, it's a blessing.
And then even more probably because once you cross a threshold of data on the subscription models, you start having to pay more for more data, right? So then it's adding up, and it can be thousands of dollars that matters. I mean, that makes a difference. I love one thing you said. You said when you did your first deal, you didn't go out and blow the money, and that was so smart because you're reinvesting now in your business. And when you reinvest on your deals back into the business, it's like compounding interest. It's like the business can grow so much faster because you're internally making money. It's like you made money on almost nothing, and now that money's making money, and you're building this empire now, and it's self-funding, and that's amazing to be able to do a business that self-funds its own growth without having to take on debt or bring on, partners and stuff. Very few businesses you're able to do that. Most businesses require like a huge capital investment and ongoing cash flow infusions into the business. And so I just love that you're doing that the smart way. Like I tell people, bust out of the seams, like run the business in your bedroom or in the garage or whatever until you absolutely need to bring on that overhead. And then when you do bring on the overhead, start replacing the low dollar activities like you're doing with VAs. You stay in the high dollar activities like closing, and then eventually you'll get a high value, a very successful, salesperson replacing you. And in time, if you keep progressing and developing and learning, you'll get in the owner's box. And now the business runs without you being in the day to day. And that's the thing, right? Yeah. But Will, that's the 1% club, I call it. Like that's the few people that learn how to actually build a real business. Most people stay in the solopreneur, self-employed box, and they never actually learn how to build a real business. And so I just want to compliment you on that and encourage you to keep going, keep learning, keep developing. For you to go to the next level now, the biggest bottleneck is like your leadership. You want to develop into a good leader, because that's how you'll attract good talent, is by being a good leader.
And that's my fear now. Like I'm at the phase of, I think step 3 of hiring out. It's like now putting my business in somebody else's hands. It's like, it's scary. It's scary.
Yeah, you're going to be tempted at times to go backwards because you're going to run into a lot more headache. You're going to run into, issues with employees and hiring and firing. And there's going to come times where you're like, man, this was way easier when I just did it all myself. And you're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But don't do that. See it through. Keep going. Keep developing, because you can't get to the next phase until you work through this phase of building a successful team. It's the only way. You can't skip that. You've got to go through that developmental process. And if you do and you see it through, then you'll come out the other side. And that's where you get to the Rob Wensley, like that series you're talking about, guys. We talked about how to become like the $1 million a year mega wholesaler. And there's a process to get there, and it's possible to get there. You can do it.
Now that's my goal. But man, that's a big step. Of just trusting somebody else, and as you said, becoming a better leader is vital. But it's my baby, right? From the ground up, I didn't had a little success, not a ton. It's like now I'm putting this in your hands to close or dispo or a transaction coordinator is cool. I might get one of those, but I don't know. It's a big leap for me, but I know what's the next leap I need to take to get to the next level.
It is. So, Will, I went through 3 different phases. Phase 1 was nobody can do it as good as me. And if you believe that, it's true, and no one else will do it as good as you. And maybe it is true in the beginning. And then I had the mindset of, okay, well, if somebody else can do it 80% as good as I can, that's good enough, because at least now I don't have to do it. And I thought that was a pretty good, transition. And then I realized, actually, I can hire people to do specific things way better than I can do them. Mm-hmm. And then when I adapted that belief system, everything in my life changed. I started to really attract and bring on very talented people into the organization that actually could do the things way better than me. Maybe not the whole thing, but certain aspects of it, they could do even better than I could do. And that's when I started to really excel and grow in the business. So keep at it is what I'm saying.
Quick question. I hear people say things like, how do you, not say, I hear stories about people bring to your business, they succeed, they have success, and they leave. How do you retain somebody? I'm like, dang, what if I come show them how to do it? They like, I can do it myself, and they leave my business. Like,
yeah. So that's a scarcity mindset to think, if I bring on talent and I train them, they might leave. They most likely will, because high talented people more than likely will go on to do something on their own or something bigger. So don't worry about that, because here's the thing. I would rather train someone and they leave than not train them and they stay.
I like that. Yeah.
That would be worse.
Right.
Yeah. So, and keep in mind too, highly skilled people aren't necessarily entrepreneurs. So there's a fear that, if I bring on really high talent and I invest in them, they'll just gain all the knowledge and leave. And that may be true, but in reality, I think only about 5% of the population are built to become entrepreneurs. Most aren't. Most would rather be attached to a train that's a highly effective company with a vision, and they would rather be intrapreneurs, which is have a lot of freedom, a lot of growth, a lot of ceiling, a lot of opportunity within an organization, and not necessarily go start their own. So I have people like that in my company that I reward them very well. Those kind of people are going to need very good bonus structure, maybe equity structure. They're going to want to feel like they're a part of the pie or part of the big picture. And there's ways to do that where, they have a sense of ownership, even though they're not necessarily wanting to go do their own thing. They just want to be part of something that's going places, doing big things, doing great things. And they don't have a cap on their ceiling. They don't have a ceiling on their income or their potential.
Okay.
Sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
Good. Well, Will, what would you say, if you could share with somebody, would be your biggest advice? Maybe someone working on their first deal that's, 1 year behind where you're at today. What would be your advice to them?
Perspective, and don't reinvent the wheel. A lot of the people I've met now in the industry that fall out and quit or whatever, it's because they're trying to do it their own way, hire their own VAs. If you know somebody who's knowledgeable, just follow their path. There's no point of trying to be exclusive to your own whatever. Just don't reinvent the wheel and go into it with the right mindset. Can you get a deal the first call? Maybe, but let's be realistic and go into it with the mindset it's going to take time. And once you cross over to doing the deal, there's obstacles to get across on that side of it. So just know it's a business. It's not a quick get rich quick scheme. It takes work. So I say really it's mindset, having the right mindset and following the right people so you can achieve what you want. I won't say quicker, but in a certain time frame, I guess.
And I love that. That's such good advice. And you're so right. Today in 2024, we have so much data about how to run the business. There's so much dialed in information, and a wholesale operation is it's the kind of business that you really can develop out processes and systems where it's very predictable. It's a very predictable business model. And so follow the steps and you'll get the outcome. Put in the input and you'll get the outcome, right? So that's so true. I really love that. So thank you again, Will, for sharing your experience, your journey. I hope this is an inspiration. If you're listening to this and watching this, I have a 3-year-old looking in the office right now. Come on in, Rosie. Come on in. So Will, again, thank you so much and sure appreciate you.